It's Friday, September 12th. We're looking at the long-range outlook in this video, and summer may be hanging on for some parts of the United States, but up in the Arctic, winter is already taking shape. Also, there's more ice this time of year just to the north of Alaska from the National Weather Service. They're talking about it, and that may mean an earlier freeze-up. We'll talk about how that could impact our winter. Some of you are still feeling quite summer-like, especially across the central U.S. as we deal with an area of high pressure. We also have a huge ridge aloft. I think that's going to stick around at least for the next couple of weeks. Let's take this out day by day. Here we go through Friday and Saturday. We do have this cold air pocket still across parts of the southwest. That's going to bring some more rain chances here. Also across the east, decent trough swinging through the northeast. That's going to bring some cooler conditions here. And along the southeast coast, lower heights mean cooler temperatures as well, and even a few showers, especially into Florida, I think. As we head into Sunday, look at this massive ridge that continues to just pump north towards the Hudson Bay. Above average temperatures across Canada because of this, and I think it's also going to be above average from a good part of the deep south up into the Great Lakes. We'll look at that in just a second. Let's take this really far out in time into Monday, into Tuesday of next week. This upper low is going to continue to cause some unsettled weather, I think, across parts of the southeast. It's also going to keep temperatures relatively cool right here along the coast. However, that warm air continues to move north into parts of the Great Lakes region, into southern Canada, and temperatures in this region I think are going to be above average from western Canada all the way into eastern Canada and down into the states as well. Across the Pacific Northwest, we do have another trough that's swinging in associated with a decent storm that will be impacting Alaska. As this jet moves into parts of Washington and Oregon next week, I think our rain chances, even snow in the high elevations, start to go up. Anyway, toward the end of next week, and then as we head into Sunday of next weekend, this looks interesting. You get this cutoff low that's separated from your main flow, which is still pretty far to the north. These are always tough to track, something that will need to be watched over the next couple of days to see how all of this evolves. I do want to talk a little bit about the sea ice. This is where we were as we ended August, quite a bit here across Alaska, but look what's happened just in the last couple of weeks. The trend is for this to melt. That always happens as we approach mid-September. Now, this was put out by the National Weather Service in Anchorage as we ended August, but I think it reflects what we're seeing on the map. The part I find interesting is right here when they talk about that the part that I find interesting is right here when they say there are still greater than normal concentrations of multi-year ice in the southern Beaufort Sea. The presence of this ice may delay seasonal breakup by a week or two, and recently melted old ice in the Chukchi Sea between Point Barrow and Point Franklin has resulted in sea surface temperatures. This is the key, right? Because your ice is melting slower, those sea surface temperatures may be conducive to an earlier freeze up. I've been talking about that over the last month. If you just joined the channel, welcome. I'm Travis. I used to be a chief meteorologist. I like to dig into this type of stuff, especially as we head into winter. So if you think you'd like this content, come back, subscribe below, and let's track this winter together. They're talking about this, and the sea ice minimum will likely be around mid-September, which is what we're seeing, and this is the key. Freeze up looks to be earlier than normal, as there's still a fair amount of ice left in the Beaufort and Chukchi Sea. And sea ice is critical for not just getting it cold in the Arctic, but it also allows that cold air that forms across Siberia. Once we get a favorable setup, it moves across the North Pole, across Alaska, down into North America. Well, if it's moving across open water, it modifies faster, and that may mean less cold air further south as we head through late fall. The more snow you can lay down across northern Canada and Alaska, the colder you can get the air, and that could be a bad winter for us across the U.S. Something that I'm watching. I've been doing a weekly winter weather update. That's not this video. It'll be linked in the description down below. Another one's coming this week. It usually comes out either Monday night or Tuesday. It's free 99, so take and do what you will with free things. Some of you tell me in the comments you throw it in the trash. I get a long-range outlook. I get it. I don't have a crystal ball, but this is the best we have right now. Let's look at the long-range weeklies from the European temperature-wise, because I think this is what we're talking about as we deal with what I think is going to be a summer that continues for some of you, especially across parts of the Central Plains. And I don't know about Canada, but temperatures will definitely be above average, but we're talking about 90s. I'll show you in the short range outlook in just a moment. This trend, I think, is going to stick around with warmer than normal temperatures as we head into October. The European weeklies are picking up on that idea as we move through the month. So we may be looking at a warmer than average, not just late September, but possibly even into October. Unfortunately, some of you are very dry right now, and I don't see much relief. Let's look at the European weeklies. This is precipitation through October 10th. Parts of the Northeast, many of you are dry across the central and eastern U.S. You could use some rain. Not everyone, I get it, but you can find yourself on the map and see where that precipitation is going to be falling through October 10th. and it doesn't get much more hopeful as we head into October. Again, this is the driest time of year for many of you, where you're already dealing with drought conditions. Clearly too warm for snow, but I want to show you what's happening up in the Arctic and the high latitudes over into Siberia. We've already seen some snow across the north slope of Alaska. More snow forecast. These are 7-day totals as we go into October. It just continues to snow here, and if you look at the total amount of snow that's forecast, at least through the 15th on the European weeklies, a lot of pink showing up, right? So that's more than a foot of snow as we start to develop that cold air. And yeah, even some previews of some early snows heading into October across the Rockies. Let's look at the short range outlook as we head through the weekend. We're going to really look at North America here, a wide view. We've got onshore flow here into the Pacific Northwest, or at least across parts of British Columbia. That will impact eventually parts of the Pacific Northwest as this system drops in. Otherwise, some showers across the southeast and more thunderstorms across the Rockies into the northern plains, even into parts of Montana, Wyoming today into Saturday. Across Alaska, we are dealing with some cold air, some snow showers, but this storm right here is going to impact southern Alaska with more wind and rain. Otherwise, warm temperatures across the central United States, cooler conditions along the east coast as high pressure sits to your northeast and gives you that northeasterly cool maritime air mass that moves in. That keeps temperatures, I think, a little bit below average. Another high settles into the northeast as we head into Monday. This means more cool fall conditions for you guys, but on the backside of this, we're dealing with warmer temperatures, moisture increases. It's going to be a little sticky too, I think, at least for the mid part of September. And then as we head into the late part of next week, you can see where the rain's going to be. And this kind of caught my eye, this cool shot of air for the northeast with temperatures falling down across the west by next weekend. I think we're dealing with more showers and storms digging into the next couple of days, including today. Severe storms possible from Montana east into the Dakotas. We talked about that, into Wyoming. Maybe even some as far south as Nebraska, and then down here into the Four Corners states. Some of these could get on the strong to severe side. Heading into day 2, once we move into Saturday, more storms across the Dakotas, also into parts of the Southwest. And your day 3 convective outlook, we're just going to keep these storms going here across the central and northern states through the weekend into, I think, maybe even next week. Let's look at the hour-by-hour outlook here on the future radar. A few showers moving across parts of Iowa today, Minnesota. Some of these could pulse up as we head into the afternoon, but the strongest storms are going to be across Montana, down into the far southwest. Heavy rain possible with any of these. Some strong gusty winds, some hail. Your tornado outlook relatively low today. Your primary threat will be damaging winds in these areas, and again, some hail as well with some of the stronger storms, especially up here into parts of North Dakota, Montana. These could get pretty big this afternoon, and then we see more scattered showers all the way down into the Rockies, into the far southwest, down into parts of New Mexico. Anytime you get heavy rain in the mountains, flooding is always a concern with any of the heavier downpours. And then look what happens early Saturday morning. Some snow starts to move in into the highest elevations of parts of Wyoming as some cold air wraps in behind this system. And then the severe threat pushes east into parts of North and South Dakota heading into Saturday afternoon. And then we also get some pretty decent storms as this piece of energy starts to kick east into parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas heading into Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening. Temperatures today are going to be warm into the 90s across Kansas, Oklahoma, even as far north as Nebraska. And look at the overnight lows into early Saturday morning. We're starting off in the 70s. This, my friends, feels like summer. I get it. We're almost to the official start of fall. Meteorological fall has already started. But yeah, hot temperatures continue, not just into Saturday, but again on Sunday in many of the same areas. No relief for your air conditioner here. You are getting some relief across parts of the east. Heavy rain will continue into Florida through Friday, and then as we get into Saturday, we're starting to see these showers drop in from the northwest across Michigan, Illinois, into parts of Wisconsin early in the morning, and then as we head into the afternoon, we'll keep the showers around. Some of these could pulse up heading into the afternoon and evening across southern Wisconsin, western Indiana, central Illinois, and this all drops to the south. Here's a look at your temperatures. Different here. Clearly you can see where that heat is back to the west into even West Tennessee. You start off on Memphis and I-40, you're going to be in the low 90s. By the time you get to the eastern side of the state toward the North Carolina line, you could be in the upper 70s, maybe even mid 70s up into the mountains. So a big difference in temperatures, and also into the northeast. Some of these areas may not get out of the 60s. All right, let's go west. Some rain chances again across the southwest, which we've talked about. That continues all the way across the northern Rockies. I mean, this is an area where there's quite a bit of moisture around. That will continue through Saturday, Dry though once you get into California, Oregon, and Washington ahead of this system, which will increase our rain chances heading into Sunday. That will last into Monday, and it'll start to move into parts of Idaho, and then even some high mountain snow here into Idaho, into parts of Wyoming too. It's going to be really high elevation snow though, as temperatures are going to cool down some, but it's certainly not a huge shot of cold air. There's your temperatures for today as we head into Saturday. High temperatures cooler than what we may have seen all summer, but some of you may be real sick of the heat, especially into the Central Valley. But, mid to upper 80s for Sacramento, not too bad. Eastern Oregon and Washington, where we were in the 100s, at least we're now in the upper 80s. And down into the far southwest, even the desert's a little bit cooler this weekend. Heading into winter, I always like to look at what's going on in Alaska. As you may have found out on this channel, we've got one storm moving through now, another decent storm moving up from the south as we head into Sunday and Monday. Winds will increase here from Anchorage all along the coast. Some high mountain snow at first because we're going to bring in a lot of warm air from the south. But once this low moves by, I think snow levels start to drop some, and more snow's trying to fall across interior Alaska along the North Slope. And we don't talk about Hawaii much. And I want to show you something. This is one of the reasons why no changes here. It's like I've always thought about if I was forecasting in Hawaii. I mean, occasionally you do get some things happening, but very normal weather though for now. We do have some wild winter occasionally on Hawaii, especially on to some of the peaks, Mauna Kea, where we get some big snows. A place I was fortunate to visit a lifetime ago. I've not been back since I was this age. It's a pretty cool place. Above the clouds at 12,000 feet. Oh, and to be 22 again. All right. That's all I got for the video, guys. See you next time.